And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, we are going to be focusing on Victor Wembanyama. The Spurs, they matched up against the Utah Jazz the other night. We're going to talk about that game as well and the results of that game. But again, primarily the focus is going to be on Victor Wembanyama and his amazing performance. And so just to recap what went down, the Spurs, they matched up against the Jazz. The Jazz played at home. However, the Spurs still ended up prevailing. They ended up winning 106-88 against the Jazz. So not a very solid performance coming in from the Jazz and the rest of their players. I can't really say much about this game. I mean, Lauri Markkanen, he did not end up playing in this matchup, so it makes total sense why they ended up losing. The leading scorer for the game was Colin Sexton, who came off the bench, 5 for 11 from the field with 16 points, along with 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. He did end with 5 personal fouls, however. Keontae George, he was the second leading scorer for this game, 15 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. However, he went 5 for 14 from the field and 1 for 9 from 3, which is not ideal in the slightest. And John Collins, he ended the game with 14 points, 6 of 13 from the field, and 0 for 1 from 3. And Kyle Filipowski, Filipowski, excuse me if I mess up that last name. He ended the game 12 points, 5 of 8 from the field. Now, the Utah Jazz as a team shot 39% from the field and 7 for 32 from 3, compared to the Spurs, who as a team shot 12 for 43 from 3, which is not much better in terms of percentages. They did shoot 27%, but it was good enough to beat the Jazz, especially with the team shooting 41% from the field. Chris Paul had a fantastic game tonight, 19 points, 8 for 13 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, very efficient. Keldon Johnson, excuse me, I said Keontae, I apologize. 3 for 10 from the field, along with 13 points, 1 of 6 from 3, not that ideal. Jeremy Sochan ended the game with 11 points, 5 for 13 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3. So, again, like I said, the Spurs didn't really shoot that much better than the Utah Jazz, but the Utah Jazz are just, an incompetent team that it was all right for them to shoot like that and still end up winning by double digits. And Victor Wembanyama's performance. Now, he didn't really shoot the ball all that efficiently. He shot 9 for 20 from the field and 4 for 13 from 3. However, it was what he did everywhere else that was incredibly impressive. He had his second career 5x5 game. So what does that mean? It means that he recorded he recorded at least 5 stats in every single one of the 5 positive stats that you could record. So basically, at least 5 points, at least 5 rebounds, at least 5 assists, at least 5 steals, and at least 5 blocks. That's a 5x5. So his final box score performance was 25 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 steals, and 5 blocks, which is incredible. Like, that is absolutely incredible. And keep in mind, the game before that against the Thunder, it was arguably the worst game of his entire career, because he scored a career low against Chet Holmgren. But despite that, he made a resounding statement on Thursday with his second career 5x5 stat line. Again, this is the second time that Victor Wembanyama has done this. And finishing with 25 points is impressive. But then adding 5 steals along with that, along with 5 blocks and 7 assists, that is very, very impressive. I do gotta say. Now, I expected a little bit more rebounds than 9 from Victor, especially considering how he's 7'4", but I digress. And again, like I said, second career 5x5 after his incredible performance against the first time that he actually that he had a 5x5 game was when he was a rookie and he played against the Lakers on February 23rd. and he scored 27 points, got 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 steals, and 5 blocks in that game against the Lakers. That was the first game where he had a 5x5. And Wembanyama, he has become the third player in NBA history with multiple 5x5 games, joining Hakeem Elijah One, who has 6 in his career, and Andriy Kirilenko. Excuse me. I did not mess up that name, but it was just a little bit difficult to pronounce, I will say that. And Kirilenko, he ended with 3 of those in his career. So this is an incredibly exclusive club. And furthermore, he also joins Elijah One as only the second player with multiple 5x5 games while scoring at least 25 points. So that is very, very good company when you are in the when you're in a similar conversation as Hakeem, right? A lot of people, they consider Hakeem one of the most underrated centers in the NBA. In fact, a lot of people have Hakeem Olajuwon in top 5 centers in NBA history, not just because of his footwork, but also because of his title run as the 6th seed with the Houston Rockets, not in 1994, but in 1995. And to that, I say, yes, that run was very, very impressive. But Hakeem Olajuwon's career did not start in 95 in 94. It did not start there, right? Hakeem had several other playoff series where he was a much higher seed and he did not end up performing, and the team did not end up making it all the way to the finals or winning. And a lot of people, they tune that out when they think about the 90s, considering how Michael Jordan dominated in the 90s every single year. So a lot of people, they sort of try and tune that out. But again, like the way I see it, Hakeem Olajuwon, yes, he's a very talented, a Hall of Fame center without a doubt. But a lot of people, they somewhat tend to overrate him because they think he's underrated, if that makes sense. Because again, like he gets a lot of praise for that title run in 95. But like I said, his career did not start in 1994, and it did not end in 1995. There were still other things about Hakeem, and there were still other postseason appearances that ended up falling short. And a lot of people, they tend to forget about that because they only look to the 2 championships that he won when Michael Jordan wasn't dominating in the 90s. Obviously, because that year he sort of he retired from the NBA for a little bit, and then he ended up coming back. So, according to Elias Sports Bureau, Victor Wembanyama's performance marked only the 23rd 5x5 game in the NBA since the NBA began recording steals and blocks in 1974 and in 1973, 1974. And honestly, I think that if the NBA recorded those stats when Wilt Chamberlain played, he'd have I don't even know, maybe 50 5x5 games. I have no idea, but I mean, that Wilt is a monster. He's crazy at putting up stats. I would not be surprised if he's had several games like that, putting up ridiculous numbers. It's just, the NBA didn't track it at the time. So being able to know whether or not Wilt Chamberlain actually did all those things, still up for debate. Not to mention also Bill Russell. That's another player that probably would have ended with a lot of those, but the stat wasn't recorded in their time. So who knows? But the only other active NBA players with 5x5 games include Nicholas Batum in 2013, Draymond Green in 2015, Anthony Davis in 2018, and Jusuf Nurkic in 2019. I remember when Jusuf Nurkic actually did that. It was very, very, nobody expected that from him. However, none of those players have been able to repeat at doing that until Victor Wembanyama, right? There was no current player in the modern NBA that has been able to repeat that kind of stat line until Victor. So the hype around Victor is very, very real. And I don't think it's ever going to die out. And, I mean, if he's able to win a championship, forget it. It's never going to die out. And, like I said, this is, like, the first time that it's been repeated since Hakeem. Like, that is a very, very elite conversation to be a part of. Wemby was off to a slow start in the season, tallying only 20 points combined in the Spurs' 2 losses to the Thunder and the Rockets earlier in the week. And the historic outgoing on Thursday may have been the turning point for him to resume his exploits from his logic-defying first-year campaign that saw him become the first rookie to make an all-defensive first team besides countless of other firsts. Now, Wembanyama, he is not really getting carried away, telling the Express News that he needs to do more to help his team. He said, "It tells me I need to get my standards up when I don't get 5x5s because I am able to help my team in all those areas." He said after the game, "It should be a consistent thing. As I have said before, it is something we must have, something I must have more often to help my team." It's worth noting that the Spurs defeated an 0-5 Jazz team without its best player, who is dealing with back spasms, and the 2-3 Spurs' next host is going to be against the Timberwolves on Saturday. So he's going to go up against his French teammate and former Olympic teammate Rudy Gobert in this matchup. And I think, it's going to be really tough for Victor to sort of play well, because the way I see it, Rudy Gobert most likely knows all of his moves. Whether Rudy Gobert can guard all of his moves, that's a different question, I will say that, but I'm not entirely sure how good of a game Victor is going to have against the Timberwolves, knowing that Rudy Gobert is going to be guarding him. But we will see, because if Rudy Gobert does end up locking him down, that might be enough for him to win, or propel him to win the Defensive Player of the Year over Victor, even though I don't expect Victor Wembanyama to lose that award again to this guy. I really don't. But we'll have to see. So that's all that I have for the recap of this game. So now we're going to go ahead and continue with our NBA recap of the games that went down yesterday night. And right after this short break, we'll go ahead and continue. So be sure to stay tuned if you guys are interested.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.